formation. Obviously, Mew will not exist anymore. And then Giratina, you know, currently the best deck in format, in most people's opinions, definitely had the most highest placements. As we consult the prize cards there, Radiant Greninja, 1 copy of Roxanne and Boss there for Brent could be impactful. And then for Fabrizo, 2 copies of Genesect and the Fusion Strike Energy prized as well. So there's things we have to watch out for there.
That's not good.
No.
Like, most players want to get 3 Genesect out turn 1 minimum. Sometimes 4, always 3.
Yes.
Having 2 in the prizes means you are limited to 2 Genesect. That is going to limit your draw in the early game. That could be extremely relevant as we go through here, but we start with Brent. We got 1 Giratina in the active, 1 Giratina on the bench. Can we see any flower selecting? Or are we just going to see an energy and a pass?
I don't think this hunt is very good there for Brent as we kick off our Swiss round 13 here at Liverpool Regionals. We're just going to see an attach and a pass over from Brent.
Oh, this is nice.
Fabrizo immediately has the heavy ball in hand, so can liberate one of those Genesect. Very nice. Get it out the prize cards and consult the rest of the prize cards there as well.
And this is actually really nice because, first of all, well, that Hisuian heavy ball got you a really good target, which it doesn't always. And now you're going to have 3 Genesect potentially out turn 1, and now you're golden. Those prizes looked really bad, and literally within like 5 seconds of starting the game, Fabrizo's like, nah, mate, I'm cool.
Yeah, and the difference between having 3 Genesects in play and 2 is massive. As someone's played Mew a lot, like, it's very impactful. Now, we see the Fusion Strike Energy get attached to that Genesect. That could be, you know, playing around any potential Spirit Tomb, as that Fusion Strike Energy would allow Genesect to use its ability Fusion Strike system under Spirit Tomb as well. As Fabrizo does play a Judge, so Brent, you know, didn't have a great hand, and now he's going to have to operate off a 4-card hand to start the game, essentially. And let's see how this hand treats Fabrizo. Does obviously have the Forest Seal Stones, because can you start Alchemy to get him out of any trouble if he needs to?
I mean, judging by the start, we could even just see an Abyss Seeking next turn from Brent. We see that from Giratina quite a bit. The problem is going to be that really from turn 2, Fabrizo with a single modifier, you know, a power tablet, Tails on Grammatic, and that's 2 then in the discard is not ideal. Or even just a Choice Bout there, which is already on the board. That's a KO on a Giratina V, so you really do need to be trying to V-star these early, or else you could see some very early KOs from Mew, which is not ideal.
That is one thing Mew is fantastic at doing, is picking up damage and getting KOs at a real fast rate. So Fabrizo does draw into a Battle VIP pass there. Going to go for 2 copies of Genesect V, and obviously this is Fabrizo's playing a more traditional DTE Mew build. Does have the 2 copies of Fusion Strike Energy and 1 copy of Elisa, I believe, so you can try and get around Spirit Tomb, but for all intents and purposes, this is realistically a DTE style list. As it looks like Fabrizo does have 6 Fusion Strike Pokemon in place, can use Fusion Strike system there for 5, and let's see what he has.
Yeah, that's pretty standard nowadays. You see a lot of people playing that 1 or less Sparkle, 2 Fusion Strike just to get around Spirit Tomb. We've drawn into Energy, we've drawn into Path to the Peak, we've drawn into Mew V Max, and Fabrizo's got everything they need to get a KO on a Giratina V next turn. They've already got the Energy, they've already got the V Max, they've already got the Choice Bout actually attached. They've gone and put the Path to the Peak in play, and then just passed over the turn. So Brent gets an early Colress's Experiment here, which is nice. There were no cards in the Lost Zone in turn 1, which is not what you really want to be going for. So we're going to get something established here, but like we say, if you don't evolve that Giratina V, it is going to get knocked out. So as much as Abyss Seeking would be a nice option a lot of the time, it would be giving up 2 prizes to Abyss Seeking this turn.
I don't think Brent can move this Giratina out the active. I don't think he's got any way of doing it, so he's going to have to just go for an Abyss Seeking here, which would essentially give up 2 prize cards, opting to evolve the bench Giratina V-Star, as we do just see an Abyss Seeking.
So it is what we thought it might be, but this is not ideal. We know Fabrizo, all he needs is a double turbo and a Mew and they're V-Max, and they're both in hand. So there is no issue of hitting 220. The 220 is already on the board. So this is going to put Fabrizo up 2 prizes super early, and this is perfect. This is what you want. What you don't want to be doing is letting your opponent start taking out those Mews. Obviously, you know, 2 Mew V Max KOs, that's the end of the game. You want to be trying to get those 2 prizes nice and quickly, and we see the standard one of Featherball coming out.
Fantastic card, and you search your deck for any Pokemon that has a free retreat cost, so that can find Mew V and Mew V Max in this deck. And one thing I love about this turn here for Fabrizo, it doesn't even have to replace Path to the Peak. The Choice Belt acts as that damage modifier that bench Mew V Max will need to KO, and then you don't even have to replace the stadium just to make it even harder for Brent. As he does opt to play the Lost City though, because it can draw some cards, maybe draws into some other strong cards. Let's see what he draw into there. Lost City. Lost City would actually help out Brent a little bit here, though, by putting that Giratina V into the Lost Zone, accelerating Brent's Lost Zone, which could be impactful.
It would. It takes it off the board.
That Giratina V does have to go to the Lost Zone.
That Giratina, there we go.
Yep.
Just quick reminder there. So that's 5 cards in the Lost Zone. So you're not there yet in terms of Mirage Gate, but Chorus's Experiment would get there. But Fabrizo goes up by 2 prizes. And that's a fantastic start. And Mew being able to hit 220 so easily is just such a big deal there. Yeah,
not having to even use Power Tablet, just having that Choice Belt on board. So nice when you hit into those Evolving V Pokemon. And Mew is a very scary deck when it's operating in the lead, because it has no problem taking prize cards at a fast rate. As Brent is going to start his turn there by playing a Nest Ball. Gonna search out a Cramorant, who can attack for free with that Lost Provisions ability. As long as there's 4 cards in your Lost Zone, you can remove all energy from its attack. So Spit Innocently can be done for free, doing 110 damage.
Yeah, 110 for 0 energy is pretty good. And that's the thing, like here, you only really need 3 attacks. You need to soften up a Mew so that it can be KO'd by Giratina. And then you have the Giratina V-Star, using the V-Star power to get the automatic 1-hit KO. That's it.
Yes.
And that's the game at that point. And although Mew can KO a fresh Giratina V-Star, it becomes a lot more difficult, because 280 means you basically need 3 modifiers at that point, which becomes super awkward. I mean, with the Choice Belt attached, it would just be 2 Power Tablets, so you would need to... That's the other problem is, obviously, you're not attacking 2 turns in a row because you're copying Genesec's attack. So you would need to get out the active and then back in the active. But if you can do that and play 2 Power Tablet, we could see big back-to-back KOs. But it's more likely Brent is probably going to attack with something like a Cramorant here. Yeah,
I think Cramorant, especially since that Choice Belt has been already committed. So, like you mentioned, having the Choice Belt, we're just going to see a pass over to Fabrizo as Brent puts Path to the Peak in play. Now, we know that Fabrizo does have the V-Star available to him. I guess a boss does have double tablet in hand, actually. So, does he have a switching card? Might be able to just grab a boss off the V-Star if there's a switching card in hand, and actually take a KO on that V-Star.
That would be huge. I think he does have a switch in hand, I think I saw a switch very, very briefly. So we do see the V-Star being used here for a boss's orders. I think we've got it, Jay. I said you need to get in and out the active, play double Power Tablet. We need a boss to get it off the bench. But this would be a KO on that fresh V-Star. And I think there is about a 97% chance Brent concedes a game at that point.
Yeah, I was about to say, if you're Brent and that happens, because there is no Giratina V established and there is no shenanigans like... what's that support called? Fortin, to get a Giratina V in play. You haven't got a Giratina V developed, so you have no real offensive output next turn. Brent is going to be in a tough spot. We see the Skate Rope being played, forcing the Comp Fate out the active, forcing the Mew V, double Power Tablet boss.
There's the boss. Now you need to retreat into the one with a Choice Bout, which we do.
We go.
And there will be exactly 280 KO on the fresh Giratina V-Star. And Brent's going to keep going for a turn or 2. But I think it is fair to say this game is pretty much over at this stage. Going ahead 4 prizes like that is just absolutely huge.
There's actually something I really want to draw attention to here in this game. So Brent's energy count has a lot of energy in the discard and the Lost Zone already. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as Brent. I guess Brent's win con now is going to be that classic Roxanne plus Path. That classic Giratina play. And hope that Fabrizo will, dead draw for lack of a better term, and not be able to operate much off that Roxanne.
But Fabrizo literally doesn't need anything.
Well,
you can retreat and attack and take a single prize, and then the following turn you retreat and attack and take another single prize. You've got 2 attackers. Both your attackers have energy. They both have free retreat, so you can switch between them at will in that regard. So I don't think you can disrupt Fabrizo here, really, because... you need to start KOing the Mew, because Fabrizo can just keep attacking every turn.
You just see a Spit Innocently, so Boss Power Tablet would actually be game right now.
Boss Power Tablet would absolutely be game. Or a switch boss would also be game.
Switch boss, any we do
There
see
is a switch in hand.
There is a switch in hand.
Yeah, there was a switch in hand last turn, but Fabrizo chose to play the escape rope instead. So a boss's orders here, you would actually be able to switch, retreat to the one with the choice belt, and then boss and KO the Giratina V, and that would be the game. But I mean, that's even overcomplicating it a little bit here. You can literally just retreat to your other Mew, KO the Cramorant, and then next turn you just KO, I don't know, whatever you want.
Whatever's in the active, you are correct. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Fabrizo's in a very strong position. Yeah, like you said, he's taking one prize card here is perfectly fine. I think Fabrizo might be debating to play the Iono, but I mean, Brent hasn't done a lot. I think I'd be holding on to that for sure.
I mean, there is still a way back for Brent here. It's a very, very, very long shot, but you're going to give up the Cramorant here. You go down to one prize. But then maybe if you can get, and you would need Giratina V-Star and Mirage Gate next turn.
Yep.
But then you get a KO on the Mew.
With Star Requiem.
And then the next turn, if Fabrizo doesn't then finish out the game, maybe this Giratina can take 2 KOs in a row.
Yep.
Because the damaged Mew can be taken out with a Lost Impact.
Yep.
And the fresh Mew can be taken out of a Star Requiem.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is a chance there that you can finish out the game with one Giratina, but it needs to be Star Requiem this turn.
Yes.
But even then, a double power tablet would still end the game next turn, or a boss's orders, or an escape rope.
Mm-hmm. And Brent actually still needs to get to one more card, or 2 more cards in Lost Zone, actually, before we can even use Star Requiem. Actually, not quite. Well, we're at 9 in Lost Zone, right? You need 10.
It is also worth noting Fabrizo used an escape rope a couple of turns ago.
Yeah.
When a switch would have done, an escape rope would win the game next turn for Fabrizo.
Yeah, that is true.
So that is something just to keep in mind. He's still got the switch in hand. I don't know if he's got an escape rope, and right now, escape rope would guarantee the win for Fabrizo next turn.
Love Escape Rope in Mew. He doesn't even play one copy of Escape Rope. It's actually one of my favourite cards in Mew, because a lot of the time you just want to push a high HP Pokemon out the active and just take a prize card, and Escape Rope is perfect for that. So, Brent does have a Mirage Gate, does have a boss's orders here.
Oh, it's a boss's orders stall on the Genesex.
No.
Doesn't
Switch.
have it.
There it
There's
is.
the switch. There's the game. Fabrizo takes game 1. Mew takes down Giratina. And we're going to be off to game 2 to see if Mew really is as good as everybody says. And what we saw there. And look, there is a way Giratina can win this matchup. And we've talked about it, but just the power of Mew there, basically going, I am going to be taking out a 2-prize attacker every time I want to. You would better set up fast enough to stop me. And Brent just couldn't do it that game.
No, I think Brent really didn't draw very well. He played one Colts Experiment that game. There was no Roxanne when it was live as well, which I think how Giratina really relies on coming back into games. And the strength of Mew there was so high there. Like we saw, I think Fabrizo only used Fusion Strike system maybe like 2 or 3 times. Like Path to the Peak was in play for most of that game, but it just didn't matter. Like
he just set up double Mew so quickly. He had double Mew with energy so quickly in that game that we saw like every turn. We're not looking for these ridiculous combos. We were looking for 1 or 2 power tablets, a switch. There was one turn where you really needed boss's orders, but hey, wonderful news. You've got Forest Seal Stone to go and just guarantee the boss's orders. So it was basically 2 turns, setting up perfectly, having everything you need, and just kind of chilling from there.
I think a real X factor to that game was finding that choice belt so early.
Yeah, that choice belt was huge.
The choice belt meant you don't have to commit so many power tablets, and it means that when you're hitting into Giratina, it is possible to take a KO with 2 power tabs, and then you can do it again, meaning you can get through 2 V-Stars.
Yeah, the idea that you can get the V without any power tablets,
yes,
and then you get the V-Star with 2 power tablets, is absolutely huge. You've only got 4 power tablets. When in matchups where you rely on them, they run out really quickly.
They do.
But that V, I mean, was it 3 different attacks we saw it with? It basically gave like 7 or 8 power tablets effectively throughout the game.
Yes.
And that just made a fantastic difference as we went through that matchup.
Yeah, fantastic card when you're hitting into those V Pokemon, obviously. And over for Brent now, though, has still plenty of time to get back in this. Giratina is the second most played deck for a reason. It had 3 top 8s at Charlotte, so it's a very strong deck. And I think, if that Path to the Peak, Fabrizo, I think it was a bit of an anomaly to be able to operate Mew under Path to the Peak. That's not really how the deck tends to operate too much. So Brent still has plenty of win cons here and way to navigate this.
Oh, absolutely. And it's really quite simple for Brent. You need to damage one of the Mew with, it could be a Sableye, it could be a Cramorant, it doesn't really matter. One of the Mew needs to be damaged, right?
Yep.
As soon as a Mew VMAX is damaged, you can then KO one Mew VMAX with Lost Impact, one with Star Requiem, and that's it, that's the game.
Yep.
Mew VMAX gives up free prizes. So it is a free attack win for Brent here. It's really that simple. You just hit one Mew with something, anything, doesn't matter what, 2 Giratina attacks, that is the game.
Ooh, worth noting, Brent has prized 2 copies of Basic Water, so that means Moonlight Shuriken can actually be really impactful in this matchup for spreading 90 damage on 2 Mew V or Mew V Max will not be an option.
No, he only plays 3. You need 2 for that Moonlight Shuriken, so that's only 1 left in the deck. That means that attack is off the table. Oh, chooses to keep the counter catch to get rid of the Jet Energy into the Lost Zone. But this is already better than last time. We got a turn 1 Flower selecting. We got a Giratina with an Energy, and we got a Path to the Peak. So Fabrizio is going to have to do some work before we can even start using any Genesect here at all.
Yeah, going to have to. I don't think there's a Path out in that hand, or there's no Forest Seal Stone as well. But speaking of prize cards, we mentioned how important damage modifiers are in this matchup, and Fabrizo has prized 1 copy of Power Tablet, and it's actually right at the top of his prize cards too. So traditionally, players take their prize cards bottom to top, so Fabrizo immediately going to have to start navigating some hurdles as he does play that Battle VIP pass to grab 2 copies of Genesect V, whilst also, I would imagine, doing a little prize check here as well.
Yeah, always nice to check your prizes. You see that when players have their first search of the game, they're going to check through, try and figure out what's prize. The prizes are, well, they're random, but they're also hidden. Unless you play a card like Kasui and Heavy Ball that lets you look at them, you're not allowed to look at your prizes. But if you're a good player who knows your deck list, you will be able to look through your deck and see what's missing, so to speak.
As Fabrizo plays an Ultra Ball, going to discard an Elisa Sparkle and a Path to the Peak. Looks like I'm going to eye up a Mew V here. He has prized 1 copy of Genesect V, so keep that in mind. And I think Fabrizo's only path out here is there a Cramomatic in that hand? I thought I might have seen one. Yeah, there is a Chromatic in hand, so you could play that, you know, discard. Wait, oh, he hasn't got an item to discard with that Chromatic, actually.
Oh, that's the thing about Chromatic. You do have to discard an item in order to play it. And even then, you've got to flip a heads to get any benefit of it. Otherwise, we saw last turn, you discard a Chromatic with a Chromatic, flip a tails, and then you've just discarded them both.
And is going to have to play that Judge instead, going to reset both players' hand bound to 4. Worth noting as well, Fabrizo prized 1 copy of Fusion Strike Energy. So that energy attached to the active Mew, well, if that Mew wants to attack at any time, it will have to have a DTE attached as well. So not quite as efficient as Fabrizo would probably like. No,
that's not ideal. Although, to be fair, the double turbo energy doesn't really affect the maths in this matchup very much at all. Because when you're copying Genesect's attack, you're doing 210.
Yep.
So you still need a modifier,
yes, you still need a modifier
to get a Giratina. You still need 3 modifiers to get the Giratina V-Star. So weirdly, the -20 from Double Turbo actually doesn't make any real difference because you still need the same amount of modifiers in this matchup to go and get the key. Well, there's only really 2 you're KOing, the Giratina V and the V-Star. Everything else is weak. What are we oohing, Shay?
We're going to get to announce Energy Mix. Don't get to do that one too often. Letting you search your deck for any energy and attach it to one of your Fusion Strike Pokemon. Probably the attack you announced the least in Mew VMAX, but it's very helpful. Very helpful. Yeah, I'd say so.
Probably.
Well, if Oricorio's around, Glistening Droplets, you don't really announce that one too often either. If
Glistening Droplets gets way more love than Energy Mix. Way more love.
Or what's the Iscue's attack, the second one, like Icicle something or other? You don't really announce that one too often. And it does go back over to Brent now on his second turn. Obviously, it is going to operate off a lower hand size because of the Judge, as we're going to see a pay retreat into Flower selecting.
Yeah, we see the couple of Flowers led to now 2 Jet Energy are now in the Lost Zone. But we are up to 5 cards there in total. And we now get Giratina into the active. Is choosing to Abyss Seeking. And I think here we were in a different situation to where we were game 1. Game 1, we knew Abyss Seeking gave up 2 prizes. It had to happen. Here, we are not in that same situation.
It's not guaranteed.
Fabrizio's got a hand of 4. He needs the Mew VMAX and a modifier. There's no choice bout down on the board. There is a Path to the Peak turning off the Genesect. Or there is actually choice belt in hand.
He's got it. Ultra Ball grabs the Mew VMAX and then the choice belt's in hand as well. So the only thing Fabrizo hasn't got here is that Pathfinder, but actually not needed. That choice belt again coming in so impactful, providing that extra 30 damage when attacking into a V Pokemon. That's going to catapult Fabrizo into the lead.
Yeah, only playing one copy in his deck, managed to draw into it early in both games so far.
Wow.
And this is coming in absolutely clutch. So it didn't look like Fabrizo was going to take the early 2 prizes like in game 1, but he did manage to pull it off in the end. And now Brent must be getting a worrying feeling of deja vu at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the saving grace of Brent here, he does actually have 8 cards in the lost zone right now and a decent hand size. So we'll be able to start firing off attacks here, as it looks like he's going to play this Mirage Gate, letting you grab any 2 different basic energy from your deck and attach them to your Pokemon any way you like. So obviously can't do... Could be going for a Lost Mine here. Could just Flower State on the active, or could start loading up with Giratina.
Would need another card in the Lost Zone in order for Lost Mine to be working. Is clearly eyeing it up, but Lost Mine is 10 in the Lost Zone if I'm remembering correctly.
It is, but I don't think he's used Flower Selecting on the active yet. So.
Oh, if he hasn't used it on the active, then I think he's probably looking in a very good position. So yeah, okay, one more Flower Selecting, Lost Mine is up. And look, like we said before, this can be enough. Now what you really want to try and combine this with, I mean, honestly, a Giratina V-Star Evolution, which we do have in hand. Maybe another Giratina V-Down. It's so awkward, though, because we saw back in Game 1, we saw the Evolution into the V-Star, and Fabrizo was like, I can actually still KO that.
Yeah.
Even though it's on the bench and it's a V-Star, I can still KO that. And that did make a big difference.
Finding the second Giratina V there is quite huge, so then if it does get boss KO'd, you have an option to evolve into another one. As we are going to see that Lost Mine, now that Brent is at 10, that activation for the 12 damage counters will be live being spread, and you have to imagine these are going to get spread either, well, it has to be on the Mew Vs, right? It's got to be, yeah. I
mean, honestly here, 3 on each of the Mew, and it doesn't really matter where the other 6 go. The important thing here is that you bring the Mew down to 280 HP so you can KO the Giratina. Now, I like what you've done where the unevolved Mew, just the Mew V, you put 90 on, because maybe you can get a cheeky KO with something else if the second Mew V Max is never found. But really here, it's just bring the Mew down into range of Giratina. That's the only thing that was actually important.
One interesting thing here is that Fabrizo's now gone for 4 Genesects, so that means that Psychic Leap is no longer, well, I mean, it is an option, but it's very risky since you only have 1 Mew V in play, and you'd be very susceptible to Boss's Orders or Lost Mine. So that means this damage on the Mew V and Mew V Max will be sticking, as we do see a fresh Fusion Strike system for 6 cards, as Fabrizo did Lost Vacuum away, Path to the Peak. I know you can see 2 there in play, but they're not in play. They're actually both in the Lost Zone.
Yeah, that is weird. There's 2 there where we might expect the stadium to be, but they are both in the Lost Zone. There are no paths to the peak that are actually there. We see that 1 escape rope. It's going to bring a Cramorant active, and it is going to bring a Mew active, shockingly enough. And I think we might be that part of the game where Fabrizo, I mean, look, it's not a bad prize, Matt, to just take out a couple of Giratina and a couple of single prizes. Ooh. But we do see a Cramomatic. It is a Tails.
Got to see another one there. I think Fabrizo really wants to try and hunt the Boss's Orders here. We see another Tails. Does still have 2 copies of Fusion Strike system. Really wants to see a Boss's Orders here. Does have, obviously, modifiers in the hand already. I see a Forest Seal Stone.
That'll do it. That's the other thing you're looking for here. If you don't find Boss's Orders, just use Forest Seal Stone, and that will allow you to go and just grab whatever card you want, which I think you're right. It probably is Boss's Orders here. Go and grab one of those Giratina off the bench, get them KO'd.
Yep.
And then, like, if you can do that, and again, we can just retreat into the one with Choice Belt.
Yes.
So you don't need to use any Power Tablet.
Nope.
And then when a Giratina V-Star finally comes active, you can just go Power Tablet, Power Tablet, Power Tablet, KO that Giratina V-Star, and that's not just a game, that's the match.
Yeah, that's the match. You would extend your hand, shake it, and ask Brent to sign the match slip. And I think that is how Fabrizo is going to try and operate. And that's how, when you're playing me, you want to try and pick up KOs for as many prizes as possible without using your modifiers. So that would involve finding a Boss's Orders. Does actually draw into it off the Fusion Strike system. So that means that Star Alchemy will be able to be saved, which is actually going to be really huge, considering I would imagine Brent might be trying to work in a Roxanne at some point to try and stop Fabrizo in his tracks. But we are going to see a retreat into the Mew VMAX with a Choice Belt, Cross Fusion Strike, Techno Blast for KO.
Yeah, and this is very, very similar to what we saw back in game 1. We saw the early KO with the choice bout. We've now seen the second KO of a boss's orders off of a... Oh, I didn't even use a Forest Seal Stone in the end.
No, didn't he drew into it off his last fusion strike system.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But it's still the same kind of thing. You still got the boss's orders, still getting KO on the Genesect, on the Giratina. And the thing is now, this basically puts Brent on a 1, and it's the same kind of thing as last game. They've still got the same map. It is, you need to get your Giratina V-Star, you need to get a KO with, you would probably go Star Requiem first here to save the energy. You would then go for Lost Impact the following turn. And look, if you can get you would need a Mirage Gate and an energy. You can, if you're Brent, you can win this next turn.
Yes.
And you just have to hope Fabrizio can't take you out. Now, here's the gigantic difference to last game. Fabrizio has to take out the V-Star.
Did draw into the Roxanne there. I think that's because it has the Mirage Gate in hand already. So I think that Roxanne's going to be key. Roxanne Path. This is how Giratina managed to survive so long in the meta. The Roxanne Path turn can be debilitating and can lock a whole lot of decks down. You know, Movie Mac doesn't want to see that. Gardevoir also doesn't want to see that. And I think that's what Brent's going to have to do. Because you are perfectly right, Ross. Brent can still very easily win this game. Take a KO this turn and a KO next turn. And I hope that Fabrizio can't do much after the Roxanne plus Path to the peak.
Well, and Fabrizio would have to KO the Giratina V-Star. They couldn't go for anything on the bench. They've not had a single prize KO. Whereas in the previous game, there were times when that was fine. You just get a single prize KO. It's easy. And there's no Giratina V on the bench to go after. So it really would have to be...
I think Brent's actually played Chorus Experiment this turn. I apologise. There will be no Roxanne action coming out now.
Okay, now this is the problem for me. I think there was a good chance for Brent, but I do think it needed to be that you get a KO with Giratina V-Star this turn, and then next turn, and that's the win. Because now you are giving Fabrizio 2 turns, and you cannot win next turn if you're Brent. So Fabrizio can just go KO Sableye, KO something else next turn.
Wait a second. I think, has Fabrizo got game in hand? I see 3 tablets. I see Forest Seal Stone hasn't been used.
If you've got 3 tablets, yes. Because you can just retreat.
Oh, there's 2 tablets, sorry.
So you would need a switching card so you can use the new and the active with Choice Belt, 2 tablet, and then you would Forest Seal Stone for boss, and then that would be game. But you would need a switch, or you would need you switch 2 tablets or 3 tablets, and then you use Forest Seal Stone to go and get the gusting, the boss's orders. That's how you finish out the game here. But I don't think you really need to. You just get a KO here, and then next turn, you don't need to worry, am I going to have boss to take out a single prize or anything like that, because you know you've got an unused Forest Seal Stone. So you can guarantee that you can hit the bench next turn. So I'm honestly fine with that.
Yeah, I think, yes, we say it makes perfect sense. As we are going to see the Fusion Strike Energy getting attached to that bench, Genesect V. So you can even just copy Max Miracle here. It's not even have to worry about moving around the active for whatever reason next turn. Fabrizio goes down to 1 prize card left. And let's see what Brent can do.
Here's the Roxanne, but the Roxanne's irrelevant at this point. Fabrizio can take a 1 prize KO for the win, and there's an unused Forest Seal Stone on the board, which will let Fabrizio search for any card he's after. So next turn, I think he's used his only escape rope, so he can't escape rope, but just go and grab boss's orders, grab any single prizer off the bench. Like I say, it was last turn. Brent needed a KO with the Giratina V-Star last turn. That would have given him a realistic path to victory. Missing it was unfortunately and with 2 games in a row, we've seen exactly the same thing. There was 1 turn where Brent could have started the get a V-Star, attack twice in a row for game, and both games it just didn't quite work out in the end.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, is there even a world where you would want to try and counter-capture up the Forest Seal Stone here and remove that from play? But then the Mew VMAX can just swing into a Giratina V-Star. We are going to see a Flower selecting there. I only saw 1 copy of Psych Energy when attached off that Mirage Gate, by the way. So when attached that Grass from hand, that means Lost Impact will not be an option. It will be a Star Requiem turn this time. I think we do see a count. Oh no, we see a switch card.
There we go.
Has he got a counter catcher in hand? He does. And he is going after the.
Okay.
He is going after the Forest Seal Stone.
I like this and I dislike it. I like it because you take.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Oh, it's already in hand. Fabrizio takes the match 2 games to 0. After all that, Shay, he just had it in hand.
Yeah, and Well, there you go. That's the thing about Roxanne, you know, it is good a lot of the time, but it's still random. If your opponent draws into their outs, then, you know, Foster's order's there. Fabrizo ties it up, and I think that game just is a testament to how fast Mew can be, because Mew was just off to the races both games, taking 2 prize cards, both games turn 2, and Giratina needs a few turns to get in the game, and Mew was just having none of it.
It was too fast.
Yeah.
And I was saying at the end of the game that I really liked the idea of taking out that Forest Seal Stone.